Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Well of Joy. Recently, I have been drawn to a story in the Gospels about a woman anointing Jesus with oil. And after looking at different accounts in the Gospels, I do wonder if maybe there was more than one occasion when he was anointed, and maybe by different women. I don't know, because there is a little differing in the Gospels. Anyway, as I've pondered upon this, I settled in John chapter 12, and I'd just like to read some verses from that to you, just the story in John 12, starting at verse 1. Jesus anointed at Bethany, it says. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus arrived at Bethany, where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honour. Martha served, while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with a fragrant perfume. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected. Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages. He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As a keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what had been put in it. Leave her alone, Jesus replied. It was intended that she should save this perfume for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me. Meanwhile, a large crowd of Jews found out that Jesus was there and came, not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus. So the chief priests made plans to kill Lazarus as well, for on account of him, many of the Jews were going over to Jesus and putting their faith in him. So we picture the scene, but actually, in my mind's eye, I've just stayed in that room, focusing on them sitting around on the floor, around the table, as they would, sharing this meal. And it just made me flick back actually to the story in Luke 10, where it says about Jesus was passing through Bethany. And Martha, with that gift of hospitality, it says that she opened her home to him and immediately began getting busy making preparations, if you remember. And then she moaned to Jesus about her sister, who was Mary, who was just sitting at the feet of Jesus. And so you can imagine around this, it says Martha was serving at the table. But just imagining the scene, can't you imagine it? Lazarus sitting there. And everybody around there must have been in awe, kind of staring. This is Lazarus who was dead. He was dead. He had been dead 3 days. He stank. And Jesus raised him back to life. Here Lazarus was sitting in the midst of them, enjoying this dinner that was given in honour of Jesus. And maybe it was given in honour, that Jesus had raised the brother of Martha and Mary back to life. Wouldn't we all be excited, And I just get this sense of buzz in the room. And Martha, just busy. And where was Mary again? Just pouring love out over Jesus. And then was criticised by Judas Iscariot. Some of the comments that I read in commentaries on this passage may give us some things to think about. It says, Mary, the type of love that gives its best. She just adored Jesus and just was pouring her love. And it was costly love. You know, she broke this alabaster jar of nard that we don't know what she was saving it for, what it was given to her for, but it was precious, it was expensive, and it was the best that she could do, was to pour it on Jesus. And back to the commentary, it says, and Judas, the type of selfishness that is only out to get. What a difference, the comparisons. And another comparison was, let us pour upon him our best affections. And I like this. The reigning love of money is heart theft. Wow. Yeah. You can't serve God and mammon, can we? No. But just this thing about the love of Mary. And it's also said in one of my study Bibles about the fact that she wiped his feet with her hair. And the culture of the day, women didn't wear their hair loose. Their hair was always tied back or covered. The fact that her hair was loose was just so undignified in the day. And that made me think about David. You know, when the ark was brought back to Jerusalem, and it says that David danced and he was so undignified, and his wife was criticising him. But David said, I'll be even more undignified than this. The love for God. And it just got me thinking about, you know, worship, and we all worship differently. But, you know, sometimes don't we worship like that, in just giving him our all, expressing worship in such a way that may seem undignified, actually. And but it's just good to pour costly love on Jesus. And if it's expressing worship in an outrageous way, then do it. But, you know, just be who you are, who God's made you to be. And a lot of people just worship quietly, that's fine. But one thing that I did think about was, you know, we can't be like David's wife. We can't criticise. You know, we need to allow each other to be who God's made us to be. And that again got me thinking about the difference between Mary and Martha. You know, there's such a difference in these women. And there's such a difference between you and I, because God created us all to be entirely different. He wired us for a reason. And I was thinking about this as I look at the picture of this celebration meal. I think actually that both Martha and Mary expressed costly love. Now, I'm not a very practical person, and I admire women in my own church who show such costly love by serving, you know, and offering hospitality, you know, serving in the kitchen, work so hard. To me, I just see that as costly love. While, you know, I'm different. I am a Mary. I love to sit at the well and hear what Jesus is saying. Drink the living water and share it with you. Share it with whoever. But no, I'm definitely a Mary. Now, it doesn't matter whether we're a Martha or a Mary, as long as we are authentic and who Jesus made us to be. So reflecting upon this, I want to say this week, celebrate, and this is reflecting a little bit on last week actually, on Mother's Day, the message I shared, reflecting on that a little bit. But I just want to say, be who God created you to be. And just pour out, let us all pour out our best affection to him, for him, worship him, love him, serve him, by using the gifts that he's given each one of us to be. None of us are the same, but let's use our gifts for his purpose and for his glory. Now go do it this week. Have a blessed week, everyone. Love you all. And remember to like and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay in touch. Love you all. God bless. Bye for now.